So think about moving to Japan. Maybe you've been watching videos like this one for months. Maybe you recently booked a trip and something clicked. Or maybe you've already decided and just want to know where to start. Wherever you're at, I hope this helped, because when I first moved here, I wish someone had made a video like this explaining everything. There were things that nobody told me, things that would have saved me a lot of stress, money, and confusion. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to understand about finding an apartment in Japan is that everything is different here. And I mean everything. Before you even start looking at listings, as a foreigner, you need to know that there's 3 major different types of accommodation, and each has their own different experience. The first is short-term rentals. These are usually service apartments or guest houses. They're fully furnished, flexible contracts, and usually require no Japanese to get in, but they are more expensive per month. In saying that, they're the easiest entry point and will give you a base while you figure out your next move. They're great if you want to land, get settled, and then search for a property within the country. The second is share housing. It is arguably the most popular option amongst foreigners moving to Japan. You get a private room, shared common areas, and it's a much lower barrier to cross when you first get into Japan. They don't require a guarantor, there's no key money, and most of the staff usually speak English. But the trade-off is you will have less privacy and you will be living with strangers. But for the first few months, I think it works genuinely well. You have the added bonus of having a community of people to connect to from day one. The third, and the one that people are eventually aiming for, is a regular rental, a standard Japanese apartment lease. This is where the system gets more complicated and a lot of foreigners get caught off guard. If you go the regular rental route, you're stepping into a system that has its own fees, its own rules, and its own quirks that don't really exist anywhere else in the world. The biggest is key money, reikin in Japanese. This is a non-refundable payment to the landlord, and it's practically a gift just because you got given the privilege to rent from them. It could be 1 or 2 months rent, and once you have given it to them, you're never seeing it again. It's slowly becoming less common in Tokyo, but you still will encounter it. You'll also almost always be signing a 2-year lease. Although in most cases these are breakable, there's also a fee that you need to take into account to break that. And since most visas are 1 year, you will need to take into account whether your lease is breakable and how much it will cost you to break it at that 1 year point. And those are just 2 of the many costs. On top of key money, you also have a security deposit, the rental agency fee, the guarantor fee, and then finally the first month's rent. And these are all due before you move a single box into the apartment. When you add it up, it can easily reach 4, 5, maybe even 6 months rent up front. One more thing worth knowing, that foreigner-friendly apartments, the one with English marketing and English-speaking staff, generally come at a premium. The convenience is real, but so is the markup. One more thing that surprised me when I moved to Japan. In Australia, when you sign a rental lease, it starts from the day that the lease is signed. So for example, I signed my lease in Japan on the 16th of March, and that would usually take me until the 16th of April. In Japan, when you sign your lease, it goes from when you sign to the end of the month. So when I moved in on the 16th, I assumed it would cover from the 16th to the 16th, where in fact it's covered the 16th to the 31st, and then the next month rent was already due. It's a small thing, but it's worth knowing so it doesn't throw you off on your first bill or you don't miss your first rent payment. Then there's the guarantor system. Most landlords usually require a Japanese guarantor, someone in the country that can vouch for you, or a paid guarantor company to fill that role. It adds costs and paperwork, and even after that, some landlords will reject you without reason. It happens, it's not personal. You'll just have to dedicate a little bit more time and emotional energy into this part of the process. Okay, visas. This section is important because choosing the wrong visa or not understanding how yours works properly can get you in trouble down the line. There are more options than most people realize, so let's go through each one properly. Before we get into visa types though, there's a term that's worth explaining because you'll hear it a lot. The Certificate of Eligibility, or the COE. This is a document issued by the Japanese immigration, and essentially it pre-approves you to receive a certain type of visa. It's not the visa itself, it's the step before you can apply for your visa. For most work-based visas, your Japanese employer or sponsor will apply for the COE on your behalf at their local immigration office in Japan. Once it's approved and sent to you, you will need to take that to your Japanese consulate in your home country and apply for your visa. It typically takes about 4 to 8 weeks to process, so factor that into your timeline before you think about moving or start booking flights. The first visa type is the work visa. The work visa is the most common route that people take when they're moving to Japan for a job. Here's what most people don't know. You cannot apply for it independently. You will need a job offer from a Japanese employer first, then they will have to apply for your COE, and then once you've received your COE, you can finally apply for the work visa. So the order is job offer, get the COE, apply for visa, then move to Japan. Work visas are usually granted for 1, 3, or 5 years and are typically renewable as long as you stay employed. The work holiday visa. This is currently the visa that I am on, and arguably it is the best way to move to Japan. It's available to people from around 30 countries, including the UK, Australia, Canada, Ireland, and New Zealand. The age limit is typically under 30 years old, but some countries have extended it to 35. It lets you live and work in Japan to up to a year, and in some cases, you can extend that further. You can work full-time, part-time, travel freely, and take your time deciding whether Japan is the right long-term move for you. It is worth noting that this visa was designed for people to experience Japan and be able to work rather than full-time employment. So part-time or freelance work tends to be the safer approach here. But as a way into Japan, it's the most flexible option on the list. The student visa. The student visa is tied to your enrollment at a Japanese language school, vocational school, or university. A lot of people use this as a deliberate entry route. It gets you here legally, it gives you structure, and it allows you to work up to 28 hours a week during the teaching terms. But your visa is tied to the institution. So if you leave school or change schools, you will need to notify immigration as soon as possible. Japanese language school is probably the most common route. It gives you 1 to 2 years of studying in Japan. It builds up your Japanese skills, and it will help you apply for jobs in the future so you can get a work visa or permanent residency down the line. The spouse or dependent visa. If you're married to a Japanese national or someone who's on a work visa, this is the route for you. Spouse visas typically come with open working rights, so you can work for any employer without any restrictions. Dependent visas that cover children or financially dependent partners often have limited working rights, so check your specific situation carefully before thinking this visa will work for you. And finally, the digital nomad or remote worker visa. This is a visa that a lot of people are trying to navigate right now. Japan introduced this visa in 2024 and it is a step in the right direction, but it does come with its own complications. You will need to earn at least 10 million yen per year to have this visa, which is roughly 88,000 Australian dollars or 63,000 USD. You will also need to have private health insurance, and the visa is capped at 6 months without any renewal. If you don't qualify, some people enter on a tourist visa and work remotely, but that is a grey area, and honestly I wouldn't advise it, as you technically aren't allowed to work in Japan at all on a tourist visa. Immigration rules in Japan are enforced seriously, so do your research properly and be honest about your situation before you arrive to Japan. Banking and phone number. Now this is the topic that trips up probably the most amount of foreigners, and if you've done any research about moving to Japan, you probably have heard about this before. When moving to Japan, you will need to get a bank account and a Japanese phone number. To get a Japanese bank account, you need a Japanese phone number. To get a Japanese phone number, you need a Japanese bank account. This little catch-22 has caught a lot of people off guard and is very tricky to navigate. Personally, what I did, I came to the country with a Wise bank account. This is something you can set up in your home country and is great for everything. You can pay rent from it, you can get cash out at the ATM, because Japan is still widely a cash only or cash friendly country. You will be using cash a lot. So I recommend getting a Wise account before you even think about getting on the plane, sending some money from your home currency into Japanese yen, and having everything set up ready to go. But if you're getting a job, you will need a Japanese bank account to get paid a salary. You can also get a cash card from a Japanese account, which allows you to withdraw money from an ATM from your salary that's in the account. And the easiest option is Japan Post Bank. I have an account with them now, and it was the easiest to set up. But for the meantime, or when you first get here, a Wise account works great. A lot of the other banks, even though they claim to be foreigner friendly, they will have a 6-month living in Japan rule. So you will not be able to apply or get an account until you get to the 6-month mark, which drove me a little bit nuts when I first got here. Once you're past the 6-month mark, you can look into Shinsei Bank or Sony Bank. They are both really good long-term options. They're better at receiving international transfers, and they have a solid English language operating system. In terms of ATMs, I heavily recommend 7-Eleven ATMs. They're widely available, and from what I found, they have the best rates, lowest fees. And if you have a Wise, you rarely have to pay these fees. So I would suggest what I do personally is get a big sum of money out, you know, leave some at home and then take some in your wallet as you go. But it's easier to just get one big chunk of cash out so you don't get hit with a bunch of fees for constant withdrawals, and then use that as you need to. As for the Japanese phone numbers, there's multiple different companies that will help you before you get to the country set up an account with them, and they will give you a Japanese phone number. The problem will be that you will need to pick up an eSIM at the airport instead of your typical travel eSIM that you just download on your phone before you get to the country. I would only keep it for a month because they are crazy expensive. After 2 weeks of being in Japan with this new phone plan, you can transfer your number to another provider. I would also suggest IIJ Mio. That's the company that I'm with. They've got really solid plans, great prices, and a lot of data use. The two companies that I know of that will give foreigners Japanese phone numbers without even being in the country are Sakura Mobile and Mobile. I personally went with Mobile and they were great, honestly. It gave me everything I needed. I wouldn't be making any calls with this number because it will add up. There is no free calls in Japan, even with the standard plans in Japan. It's not anything like Australia where you have free calls and text. You will usually, unless you pay for it, be charged per call or per text. So I suggest you get a lot of data and just use WhatsApp, use Messenger, use anything like that to message and call, but I wouldn't use anything else. The language barrier. Can you move to Japan without speaking any Japanese? Contrary to what most people say, you can. It's not going to be easy, but you can. I learned a little bit when I got here, but it's really basic, like really base level basic. Tokyo is probably the best city to be in if you don't have any Japanese skill. Far more accessible for English speakers because it'll have English road signs or English signs on businesses, and you always have Google Translate with the camera function that will translate in real time if you need anything. And plenty of service staff in convenies or hotels or whatever will have a baseline English anyway. What I found at train stations or any government building, they will have a translator either on them or in the office for these situations. But surviving and thriving are two different things. You will not be thriving with zero Japanese skills. The language barrier will bite you when it matters most. When you're dealing with government agencies, doctors, your landlord, anything really important where you kind of need Japanese to communicate what you want or how you're feeling. These are kind of the moments where not knowing any Japanese will create friction, but it's not impossible, it just makes it harder. My honest advice is you do not need to be fluent before you move here. I have met many people that have lived here for multiple years now and can speak Japanese. And when I have asked them, how much did you know? They said, I moved here without it and now I know it. But putting a few months into the basic phrases or basic terms before you move to the country is a great idea, and I wish I did a little bit more before I came. I can speak a little bit now, and even when I go to convenience stores or supermarkets and I speak Japanese to the staff, they look at me like I just drunkenly slurred my words. The first 30 days of admin. Nobody makes this sound exciting, but if you get it wrong, you will probably feel it for months. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I just know when I first got here, it really sucked learning everything that I needed to do, getting everything ready, going to the council ward and doing everything. And especially with my limited Japanese, everything, especially where I was, is in Japanese. When you first land in Japan, at the airport, you will receive your residence card. In Japanese, it's called your Zariyu card. This is your primary ID card as a foreign resident. When you're in the country, you are legally required to carry it everywhere. It has your name, your photo, your visa status, and the expiry date on it. I have been stopped by the police while I've been here. I was waiting for my girlfriend outside of a train station and I got stopped by the police for whatever reasons I do not know. But if I had not had my card on me, I would heavily think that I would have been fined on the spot. And I have heard instances of people being fined. It's no different to tourists coming and not carrying their passport. If you did not know that, tourists also are required to carry their passport on them at all times. When I last came, I didn't. I don't expect you to either. It's a massive risk to have your passport on you at all times, but do be aware that they can fine you for not having your residence card on you if you're a long-term visa stayer, or if you're a tourist and not having your passport on you. Once you have your residency card, within the first 14 days of being in the country, you need to go to your local city ward and register your address. Pretty much, you will take your card, fill out some paperwork, and they will put your address onto the back of the card. Now this unlocks your card in a way. It means that you can start using it for applying for bank accounts, your health insurance, and your national ID. You should do it first and you should do it fast. I know that when I went, it was a headache. I live in a more outer suburb of Tokyo, and I'm sure in CBD areas of Tokyo, they probably speak English in the city ward, but for me personally, they did not. And although it is simple as just putting your address on the back of a card, it took me up to an hour and a half to do all the paperwork, to see someone, to go over the paperwork, get it finally printed, and then for me to pick it up from the collection desk. You will need to expect to be there at least probably an hour. As for your phone, we have already talked about it. I would have your Wise set up and you will get mobile or Sakura mobile account set up. So at least when you're in the country, you go to the information desk for that company, get your eSIM, and you've got data. Perfect. The next thing you can do within your 30 days, I will probably wait until the 2-week mark. You can start to transfer your number over to another account, like I said before, like IIJ Mio. There are other options out there, but do be aware this process can take a couple of weeks. And finally, there's the My Number card. This is probably the most important card in Japan, and it is different from the residency card. Your My Number card is your national ID number. It is tied to you personally. It is linked to pretty much everything: your tax, your healthcare, pension, and it is increasingly becoming more and more important in everyday functions like bank accounts, phone numbers. So this is a very important card to get early because it also takes quite a long time. You should apply for it as soon as you have registered your address with the city hall. Once you have your residency card with your address from the city hall, you can apply for the My Number card. It takes a few weeks to arrive in the post after you apply. And once you get the confirmation slip, you then have to usually book an appointment with your city ward to go and pick it up. For me, I have been here a little over 2 months and I'm still waiting to go and pick it up. I've got it booked for early June. I wasn't on the ball quick enough, so I probably could have had it done by now. Once you get your residency card back, get onto it so you can get it as soon as possible and you don't have to go through the headache of waiting for the months and months on end. This is a niche topic, but I find it really important because I couldn't find any information when I first moved here, and it really took me probably 2 weeks to finally wrap my head around it. The rubbish. Japan is the most meticulous country when it comes to sorting out garbage, and it is very difficult to understand for people that haven't had such a meticulous setup in their home country before. There's a few basic rules that you need to know. There is burnable waste, clean plastics, PET bottles, cardboard, cans, bottles. Burnables is your regular garbage, anything with food waste on it, and pretty much a lot of things that aren't clean and easy to recycle. PET bottles are just your classic clear empty bottles, but you will need to remove the label and the cap from most bottles and put that into clean plastics. Clean plastics has a little symbol on it. You will need to rinse out everything from it and put it into a clear bag. Cans and bottles are self-explanatory. Most countries have can and bottle recycling already, so this one's no different to any other country really. Cardboard is a big one as well because Japan has a lot of cardboard cartons. In Australia, our milk jugs are plastic, so I've never really had to deal with cardboard cartons before. Your cardboard cartons will need to be washed out, disassembled, and then dried before putting with the rest of your cardboard, and usually you will have to tie this up with twine before putting it out on the street. Larger items like furniture, bikes, appliances, you will need to contact the council. You will need to book a pickup and probably have to pay a fee for it to be picked up. If I'm being honest, you probably won't have to do that if you don't overbuy things or moved into a service apartment like I did. Each ward has their own rules and regulations, so when you first get into the country, you will need to look at your city ward's website. This is the most helpful thing that I did. My city ward had a bunch of documents that I could download it. They were already translated into English and it pretty much explained exactly what I needed to know about living in my ward. It even had each bin types, what bin bags I needed to buy for which bin, what days they went out, and most bin areas in your building or on the street will have a little kind of magnetic placard that will say what days each thing needs to be put on the street. But the most embarrassing thing is, and I think the thing that stresses a lot of people out, is if you get it wrong, they won't pick it up. They will leave it there for everyone to see that walks past, and they will put a sticker on it saying failed to collect, or pretty much you got it wrong. And no one wants to be the person that has to do the walk of shame back to their house with a bag of rubbish in their hand. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will happily explain it. It is rough. And the final part of this video is social life. A lot of people don't talk about this. Tokyo especially, or Japan as a country, is a particularly lonely country as a foreigner. It is not easy to make friends like some of the Western countries, so do be prepared that when you move here, you might not have friends unless you're moving with friends. And it is okay to have lonely periods, especially when you first move and you don't know anyone. The best thing I can suggest is going into expat communities or meeting people through either those share housing or expat events. There's constantly foreigner or gaijin events that you can find on Facebook or other social media platforms. So if you are feeling that you need to connect with some people, I highly recommend going and looking on there. Japan as a culture are really friendly, but they are reserved. It is not as easy to make friendships or genuine connections as it is in other countries here. Moving to Japan was probably one of the best decisions I've made, but it is also not the fantasy that some content or some creators make it out to be. So if you are thinking about living here, please set your expectations early, so when you get here, you're not disappointed that it's not the wonderland that you visited when you traveled, because living here is completely different to traveling. And luckily I knew that before I moved, so I didn't think it was going to be amazing go 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 all the time, and I knew that it was going to be like living anywhere else, but with a completely different environment, a language barrier, and everything else that comes with it. But in saying that, Japan's an awesome country. It can be bureaucratic, it can be confusing, and it can be frustrating sometimes, but it is a beautiful country. The people are super friendly and usually always happy to help you if you need some help. But there's also moments that you will remember that, like any other country, Japan has its problems. So if you're seriously considering moving here, I hope this video helped cut through some of the noise. And please, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. I will happily answer any questions that I can without giving misinformation or bad advice. And if you want to see what life looks like over here, please subscribe and follow along, because I like to post whatever I can about living here as much as I can.